Hey everybody, and welcome to The Joy of Posting. I'm your host. I'm your host, Rachel Jane Adelman, and this is my live Twitch show, broadcast directly into your living rooms, bedrooms, and dungeons from 2MB Studios, the only place where you can see me and a host of other creative talents from Boston and beyond. So I hope you enjoy the show tonight and the jokes that we create together. I'm going to go check Hey everybody, checking the chat. 7 people, not bad. Hey Kit, hey Pam, hey all you all. And maybe the audience will grow, maybe it won't. Either way, what a cozy time making jokes we'll have together. If you've never seen the show before, here's how it goes. I'm going to be writing tweets in a Word document. I will be explaining my process, why I've chosen the subjects I have, why I've chosen the words I have, and anything else about the process that I feel would benefit from explanation. And then I post them into the official 2MB Studios Twitter. And you can see them there. So you'll get to see the creative process, the process of creating these tweets, and then you'll get to see this finished product, which you, of course, are more than welcome to retweet or like yourself. Hey, Brandon. Hey, everybody. I just came from another show. It was a storytelling show. The prompt was spooky stories. So I talked about my time as a ghost tour guide. Mostly I sort of rambled off the fun anecdotes within each of the ghost stories at a very quick speed to give it a sense of unity. I'm not a particularly in my own mind, great storyteller. I think I should probably at some point take a storytelling class to determine truly if my life is too boring to derive good stories from, or if it's just talent where you take the mundane and you sort of assemble it in a certain form until it has the at least shape and contour of a good story. I'm kind of curious about it myself. I'm like, every storyteller can't possibly have an amazing, exciting life. Some people must just be good at putting the different mundanities in order until it, manifests as something worth listening to. So that's kind of a curiosity that I have about the storytelling process. And at some point, I will sate it. Hello, everybody. Hey, Tara. One thing about the show is I really do try to keep tabs on the chat. One day, when we all live together in the promised land, I will have 2 different screens, so checking the chat will be easy for me. For right now, I have the chat next to the mouse on my phone. So if you ever see me lean awkwardly over, my bosom, of course, gaining prominence on the screen, you'll know, oh, Rachel's checking the chat. Hello. So that's how it goes. And so there will be some awkward leaning over moments, but don't worry about it. It's all part of the process of writing a good tweet. So what we're going to do first is I am going to begin writing. I have my screen up. I have my Google Doc up. It's been made nice and big, so hopefully you'll be able to see the words, even if you're on the most modest of screens, as I am to my right. So we're just going to get into it. Hopefully this will be sort of a fun and enlightening experience, if not in the process in general, at least my own strange habits, behaviors, and philosophies. So we're going to write some tweets right now. So the past few weeks, I've been writing Halloween-themed tweets, focusing on different aspects of Halloween. I did body horror related tweets last week. I did gothic horror the week before that, and I did sort of the kitschy Party City type Halloween tropes the week before that. So for 3 weeks, I've been doing sort of Halloween-like tweets in the realm of the Halloween universe. So I will, I'm not sure what's left of the horror landscape. I'm trying to think right now. I'm like, horror. Horror. That's a fun word. Let's see, how are we doing? We're up to 15. Cool. The real show is now beginning now that we've hit 15 viewers. So horror, we're going to try to do some horror. Yeah, let's just try. I'm just going to go, I'm just going to maybe cinematic horror with a focus on maybe movie horror, the horror tropes you would see in movies, or even references to specific horror films. I think that it's always nice when writing tweets to begin from a strong premise, usually some sort of shared cultural knowledge or reference, so that people are already sort of living in a rich world that you are then allowed to subvert in the second half of the tweet. Movies, culture, they all give you so much, and humor is there to blood suck from it. And I think that's a really lovely and beautiful and natural order of things. So thinking about cinematic tropes, thinking about just horror movies I have seen. I'm not a big horror movie buff, but I have seen my fair share. So I'm just going to think of some movies I've seen and of the horror variety, and if there's a fun way to subvert central premises or iconic moments thereof. Hey, Alex. J-horror. Yes, J-horror will definitely be on the list. I love what I've seen of J-horror, namely the American remake of the first The Ring. The Pfeiffer says Rube Goldberg type murder like Saw. Yes, Saw is one of those movies. I saw the first Saw. I have not seen the subsequent Saws. What a sentence that is. But yeah, I am well aware of Jigsaw and his little games. So we can definitely make fun of him and those who are entrapped by him tonight. One thing you can always think of are like, what are the core images of certain movies? For example, I recently saw a very funny video where they made fun of Mike Myers from those movies. I believe it's Friday the 13th. The premise of the video was that every time the victim looks behind them and sees Michael Myers, he is walking at a slow pace, and whenever they turn their back on him, he is just running like on a flat-out sprint, and it's very, very funny. That's probably one of the most memorable horror-related videos, like comedic videos that I've seen this season. Every time he runs, there's like a funny little jazzy soundtrack behind him, and it's quite good. Brandon says there was almost enough Saw movies that if each was an actual jigsaw piece, it would be a decent puzzle. That's are there like, I'm taking it literally, but I believe that was a joke, so now I'm not. So yeah, I'm gonna just start to think of some horror tropes, villains or the monsters or the killers, whatever you tend to term them. Killers always tend to wear masks, or in like Freddy Krueger's case, he has he's sort of grossly disfigured, or are grossly disfigured. Sorry, misfigured isn't the right word. You'll often see me struggling with words. I may be more inclined to struggle tonight just because I feel like I have incurred some sleep debt. I just haven't been sleeping well for whatever reason, guys. It's not like this environment or scenario that we're all living in is stressful at all. So I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I'm having some trouble sleeping, and that may affect my word retrieval prowess. Killers tend to wear masks or are grossly disfigured in fires set by parents. I think that's how Freddy Krueger, his backstory is a little bit complicated. Hey, Mr. Bucci, grossly disfigured is offensive to monstrosities. That's very true. You'll notice that grossly disfigured is not the punchline. I'm merely making a list. We're going to discover the punchline as we go. Pam says, I love that Scott Patterson is both Adrian Stram in Saw and Luke from Gilmore Girls. Like, there could be two more diametrically opposed things. Thinkertron says, my boyfriend, BFF, and I are watching through all the Halloween movies this month, usually no talking. Brandon says there's a small trope for slasher villains where they can get wherever they're going super fast. It's like speed of plot, but different. Evil teleportation, I guess. Brandon brings up a great point and reminds me of how much I love It Follows, because it's all about what it would be a reasonable pace for a killer monster / ghost to walk. So I feel like in that sense, it's almost as a version of that. And one of the reasons I think It Follows is such a great film. Let's see. Killers tend to wear masks or are grossly disfigured in fire set by parents. Or, now this is generally where we would have some sort of fun punchline. Most days when I have slept, the punchline might naturally come to me at this moment, or I might say, let's move on. Trying to think of a fun third thing. Or, for example, you could say they use those, what are those nasal strips? Or are big fans of those nasal strips. Do they still have those? I thought it's been a very long time I've seen a commercial for them. So right now I'm like, there's a particular kind of a nasal strip. I think it's Biore. Biore pore strip. There's Biore pore strips. I do like nasal strips because it has the word nasal in it, which is funnier than just the word pore. Killers tend to wear masks or are grossly disfigured in fire set by parents, or are big fans of those Biore nasal strips. Do they still have those? It's been a very long time since I've seen a commercial for them. I like the People may disagree, but I like the phrase "it's been a very long time" because you can imagine the narrator of the tweet is vaguely distressed that they haven't seen one for a while, as opposed to acting casually about it, in which case you might use the term like, "It's been a while since I've watched those commercials." You say, "It's been a very long time," which gives a sense of a little bit of distress, which is just like a little fun piece of color on this tweet. So the tweet altogether now, killers tend to wear masks or are grossly disfigured and fire set by parents, or are big fans of those Biore nasal strips. Do they still have those? It's been a very long time since I've seen a commercial for them. So that is that tweet. And we'll just, we just throw it out in the ether, and we'll just see how it does. And that's how one tweets, or at least it's how I tweet. And what's cool is that you can just check the notifications as they come, but when you're in the process of writing, you can worry about the notifications a little bit less, as opposed to writing one and then just waiting. Now I'm going to return to the chat to see what y'all are talking about. Hey, everybody. Horror movies get a lot of mileage, according to Alex, out of evil nuns. I think it would be funny to have like an evil Unitarian Universalist preacher. That's very good. Pay It Forward is a horror film. Yes, Biore is the brand people associate. Yeah, I've never used those. I'm like, I guess your pores are dirty or your pores are filled with dust or meat. But I don't understand. I guess I don't quite. I guess they are more invasive than simply washing your face. I'm not quite up to date on the science. Cool. So again, if you watched this show before, you'll know that I tend to think of it as an error, a human error, to linger on these ideas or our own writing for too long, because they're tweets. I think the tweets should be tweets are fast enough to compose that you'll often end up with a better tweet if you simply continue to write tweets rather than to massage or torture yourself over the exact wording of any one tweet for too long. This is one of my fundamental philosophies about tweet writing. Don't kill yourself. Because often a sort of imperfect joke or an imperfect wording is simply imperfect. This isn't a novel where all the pieces are fitting together and you're creating this beautiful portrait. You're like, each one is its own piece of art, and you can simply continue creating them until you are in the zone, or you naturally sort of discover, stumble upon sort of an ideal idea or an ideal concept, and it sort of emerges very gracefully. And the only way to get there is just to kind of keep writing and keep tweeting. Now we're back to body horror. Body horror.
Hey, Rachel. Producer Arthur here popping in just to let you know that your mic has been muted for a couple seconds. So if we could take a look at that, that would be great. Just going to kind of hang out here while we figure this out. Hope everyone's having a great night, enjoying this awesome show, being a little bit scared, laughing a little bit too. All right, that's a good sign.
That's it.
That seems right. Great.
Oh, that's never happened before, and I'm sorry I screamed. Although I guess if I was muted, then you wouldn't have heard my girlish
Nope.
scream.
Just a really great physical reaction that no one could hear. Enjoy the show, everybody.
Thanks. Sorry, everyone. Sorry about the muting, which itself sounds like a horror movie. That did not. That's never actually happened before. Oh God, just a whole. It's so tragic when you go back to the chat and it's all people just crying out for salvation. Phew. Hey, Brandon, don't be mean to Toast. Toast is very lovely. I don't know if I'm allowed to use their real name or if they prefer to be thought of as a piece of bread. Anyway, back to work. Saw victims wake up and are chained to pipes in the basement. This is the number one complaint that plumbers have while on assignment. Change assignments to assignment. The number two complaint, getting sawed themselves, but not two pipes, which would be ideal considering their background. This one I feel really kind of speaks for itself. I'm not interested. I don't feel any sort of need to massage this at all. Saw victims wake up and are chained to pipes in the basement. This is the number one complaint that plumbers have while on assignment. The number two complaint, getting sawed themselves, but not to pipes, which would be ideal considering their background. This feels like a joke. Can't get to the pipes with people in the way. The Toast accepts your apology. Phew, guys, I'm glad we corrected that. Great. So that's my little Saw joke. I know we mentioned Saw. We also mentioned we could do another Saw joke later if another one occurs to us. But for me now, I feel like we've done a nice little Saw joke. I'm pretty happy with it. Again, we may come back to it, but for now, let's move on. Let's do a J-horror. Let's do a J-horror joke. Let me think about J-horror. J-horror, of course, tends to be, at least in Western audiences' mind, defined by ghost children, usually like wearing white with like hair that's long and over their face. Grudge ghosts, spirits. I think obviously The Ring, the iconic coming out of the well to shame mankind, but she's a child and she's coming through the TV to kill you. So obviously, what's fun about The Ring is it's like rich mythology. When things I've only again seen the American version. When I think about The Ring, I think about VHS tapes. I think about Wells. I think about the guy from Succession. Believe his name's Brian something. Let me just remember that. What's his name? Succession actor Logan Roy. Just one moment. Brian Cox. Brian Cox plays the father in The Ring. He's a British actor, and he famously, or at least in my mind famously, electrocutes himself in the tub when Naomi Watts comes a-knocking. And that's like a weird little side plot thing. Saw joke, see joke X. Cool. So other things about The Ring. I'm just listing things that I am trying to find inspiration in. So VHS tapes. What's funny about VHS tapes? Ghosts always want you to copy their weird videos on VHS tapes. I try to explain that I don't have the equipment for that. You can freak up my face if you want. I explain offensively. But you're gonna want one of those AV club dorks, and I'm not talking the TV reviewers. I like this idea that sort of emerged from the joke that for whatever reason you were able to sort of hold court with the ghost. You're like sitting at a table with this like dripping child, and you're like, listen up, Samara. You can fuck me up if you want, but I don't have the means to copy your weird videos. You're gonna want Steven and AV Club. And not the Hayden, not Stephen Hayden, who I believe reviewed Lost back in 2004. This is getting real, up my butthole in terms of the references. Keep the references right at butthole opening level. You're like, you're when you're making those jokes and you're like, these references are only references that make sense to me and 12 other people. Don't make those. How would those ever proliferate on the web? Those are for your journal, if you have one. Ghosts always want you to copy their videos on VHS tapes. I try to explain that I don't have the equipment. I don't have the right equipment. You can freak up my face if you want. I explain offensively, but you're going to want one of those AV Club doors, and I'm not talking the TV reviewers. And tweet. So that guy was a little bit in swashance. I have no idea how to pronounce that word. One of those words you only hear in books, in swashance. I'm like, how? I have no idea how you pronounce it. I am sure it's not in swashance, but I now have an overwhelming urge to be at a dinner party where I keep using the word in swashance. Alex says, I'll just name some horror movies in case it's helpful. Alex, it is more than helpful. You are being an angel. The Exorcist. I've actually never seen The Exorcist, but I am aware of its some images, some ideas from it that we can play with. The Shining. The Shining I have seen. Great movie. Real fun. The Witch. I watched the first 10 minutes and then fell asleep. I'm sure the rest of it's good. Jacob's Ladder. Never seen it, although I am a fan of that guy. And I know it's about Vietnam. The Blair Witch Project. A huge fan of the Blair Witch Project. Probably one of the most parodied films in history because of the nature of the project. But still, I'm sure there's stuff there if we go looking for it. The Begotten. I've never seen The Begotten. I've never actually heard of The Begotten, but now I'm interested. I really do need to get a Shudder account. It Follows, Get Out, Midsommar. Okay. I will be the first to admit that I've never seen either Get Out, or Midsommar. Midsommar I did not see for the reason that I tried to see it in theaters and I had gone to the website. I'm actually very mad about this. Now that I can no longer see films in theaters, I feel like I can be extra mad about it because circumstances stole one of my last possible in-theater film experiences. I went to the website and I'm like, oh, Midsommar, a 6:15 show. I'm going to go 6:15 see Midsommar. I go to the box office and they're like, oh, we replaced Midsommar. That a screening of Midsommar has been replaced by another screening of The Lion King. Not the good one, the one that's like live action, but it's not live action. I guess Disney, in all its incorrigible greed, had just stolen a screen from Midsommar, and I will never forgive them. Nature of the project, which project? Kat says I pronounce insouciance, insouciance, which is probably wrong. Let's be real. Nobody, I've never heard that said out loud. I am 33 years old. If anyone said the word insouciance out loud, I think I would have heard the word insouciance by now, unless the pronunciation is so far away from what I'm imagining that I did not recognize it by the sound of it when someone had uttered it in front of me. That's also a possibility. So let's go through these lists. So we'll start with The Shining because that's the first one that I have seen personally. The Shining. When I think of The Shining, that's one way you can always begin writing a joke. Just take a subject, The Shining. It's full of scenes. It's full of images. It's full of backstory. Everyone who is a film nerd or is even on the internet that much has probably heard about how Stanley Kubrick tended to make films, how he treated Shelley Duvall. That stuff is all vaguely, to some extent, in the public knowledge. So we'll just kind of play with it. Maya says, never seen The Shining, but I love that Treehouse of Horror parody. The Shining is quite good, although I don't like how they psychologically tortured Shelley Duvall. That was cruel and unnecessary, if you've heard that story. So let's just do a few. Let's see, The Shining. The scariest part of The Shining, and then you can think of something banal from it, is when... is it Alex? I think it's Alex is driving his tricycle through the hallway. And I don't really know why that's scary. Let me just move on. The scariest part of The Shining is when, what's the name of the main guy from The Shining? This is terrible. I'm just going to Google main guy Shining. Main guy Shining. Jack Torrance, that's his name. Just like, I'm like, bad guy, evil guy with red jacket. So Jack Torrance, the scariest part of The Shining is when Jack Torrance is observing the model of the, what's it called? Not the labyrinth, the hedge maze. You can, let's see, I think I have an idea for this. We're just going to get rid of this is when, we're going to get rid of that idea with Alex and replace it with the idea for Jack. The scariest part of The Shining, let's just capitalize that, or else I will forget to later. The scariest part of The Shining is when Jack Torrance is observing the model of the hedge mage. You can just tell he's on the verge of becoming a tabletop guy. And you know he's into those 5-hour ones. No, he's into, the games he's into. They'll never be shorter than 5 hours. What is a simple and easy way to convey to the audience that not just that he's a tabletop games guy, but that he's one of the bad ones? I like those 5-hour ones. I have some friends who are very into games, and some of the games are fun and short and simple and sweet, and some of them are just it's like you are describing this vast mechanism. You're like, these tokens turn into these points, and these points can be used for these gems, and these gems can be used for these cards, and these cards can be used for these points. And you're like, didn't we already talk about points? And I'm like, no, different category of points. And you're like, games he's into are actually, let's just say collaborative. I don't know if collaborative ones quite strikes the fear of God into the audience the way I'm hoping it will. I do know that my boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend rather, had a strong hatred of collaborative board games. So that is something that I always carry with me, just that knowledge and this thought that people have strong opinions about it. And of course, your narrator can have strong opinions too. Like, even if you don't believe collaborative board games are the worst kind of board games, I think you can appreciate a narrator who believes that. And therefore is, for example, in this tweet, is scared by the fact that they can tell Jack Torrance is that type of person. So just to read it one more time, the scariest part of The Shining is when Jack Torrance is observing the model of the hedge maids. You can just tell he's on the verge of becoming a tabletop games guy, and you know he's into the collaborative ones. Cool, let's tweet that. he just kind of alluded. I remember, I think it was called Vast. My friend Rob, who's an angel, lovely man. He had us play Vast. Vast, very well named, very terrible to learn. Everyone basically had completely different rules. The goblins had one set of rules. The elves had a different set of rules, and we all had to learn them. They all had their own book. And I thought a strangling would take place. Yes, Thinkertron, you have named Vast Coal in the Crystal Caverns. You are correct. That is the game we attempted one afternoon to play. I feel like play doesn't even really capture what was happening during those during those hours. Let's see. Let's do some more. That was our Shining tweet. I don't know if I love the Shining tweet, but maybe others will. You don't always love the tweets that other people love, and you don't always hate the tweets that other people hate. So let's keep going. It Follows. I'm going to do It Follows. It's fun. I feel like It Follows has been memed greatly, but I feel like it's still relatively ripe for further deconstruction and further subversion. I feel like the bloom isn't entirely off the rose, let's say. If The Shining took place today, Jack would have a smartphone instead of a typewriter. Makes you think. Jack would be really into Candy Crush. He would trying to think of what else he would do. He would always have 1,000 Chrome tabs open. He would always ask his wife how to turn the torch on, the light, the flashlight on. He would just be awful. We picked up the Civilization box, and even with an online tutorial video, it was too much for us to get into. Yeah, and it had a good score, and like had lovely art. It just like was unplayable. Joey Blue Eyes says Jack would be a home brewer. That is very true. Jack would have been a home brewer. I love when these conversations happen and you give people basically a vessel in Jack Torrance. You're like, what's like a shitty guy thing that I hate? And you just fill him up with it. You're like, I bet he'd be a home brewer. I bet he'd be into collaborative games. Like, yeah, fuck this kind of nebulous guy who we all hate. It's sort of very thin line-ish when we're actually attributing to him thoughtful analysis versus where we're just airing our grievances in a skillful way. Sorry, Dan. I'm not saying that you're a serial killer. I just say, Dan, that you share some traits which a serial killer would exhibit. Cool. So let's do some more. You guys can continue to build up this fictional Jack Torrance, but I have to keep moving. It Follows is a movie where you have sex and then a creature follows you to sex you to death unless you have sex with another person, at which point the monster follows that guy. And then when they kill that guy, it's back to you. It Follows depends on you having sex enough that it's always at it. You have to remember to capitalize at it, folks, because that's the name of it. It Follows depends on you having sex enough that it's always following someone else. I believe. I'm trying to think. I actually have this idea. If you sit on your hand, fun fact. Whenever I don't know how to begin a joke, I always just begin with fun fact. I'm like, I'm about to say an untrue thing I happen to find humorous. I don't know how to frame it. Fun fact. That's true. I do like the idea of confusing It Follows and Stephen King's It. Let's see. Fun fact. If you sit on your hand, the monster from It Follows will think you had sex with someone else. This is just, I actually like this one a lot. It's like, who do I follow? You idiot. I just masturbate. I'm like, if that one doesn't do at least relatively well, I will be upset because that one makes me laugh. Maybe remove fun fact and just have that follow the description of the movie. Cool. Let's see. So that's my little It Follows joke. What other horror films are there? I just recently watched Poltergeist, which is from the 80s, I believe 1982. Poltergeist is, I think, mainly famous for the fact that so many people from it died. It's actually super. There's actually like levels of tragedy. For example, the child, Heather O'Rourke, died of like an intestinal issue. But there's like this weird, the way that everyone was like obsessed with JonBenet Ramsey. Like I feel like in 2020, I was curious about it, and I like Googled her, and I found all these guys who are obsessed with Heather O'Rourke and think that she like was raped to death or something. And it's like obviously like part of like the outer rim of like QAnon, pedophile rings. Steven Spielberg is like a mass pedophile, which is all very disturbing. And guys, if I ever die because of like an intestinal issue, please don't let them say that stuff about me. Poltergeist, I hardly knew her, Geist. Now that's the stuff. Maya, thank you. Oh, I love this idea. It follows parody pitch. Loser has sex once but can't get laid again. It decides to help loser get laid, and they end up falling in love. Maya, please write that. First of all, that's an amazing tweet. That's your tweet. That's not my tweet. Second of all, please write that screenplay. That's amazing. I make no promises. Cool. I don't know what Dr. Love was referring to. But let's keep going. Poltergeist. Oh yeah. Yeah, please. Jesus, those guys. I hate those guys because it's like these are real issues, but they're just so stupid that they make it impossible to solve. And then you're like, you fucking suck. You're putting all this false information and everyone's going crazy, and the next thing you know, like innocent people, like guilty people are being ignored, innocent people are being fucked with. It's just a whole thing. The main Poltergeist legacy is that so many members of the cast and crew have suffered strange incidents or untimely death. The minor, the main, the supplementary Poltergeist legacy, the supplementary Poltergeist legacy is that, and now I have to think of something again. A lot of these are just like taking the big thing and then thinking of like a small banal thing that can be sort of humorously perched at the end. Love follows, actually. Let's see. The supplementary, Poltergeist legacy. There's like more stuff regarding Poltergeist, like who was the real director? Was it Tobe Hooper or was it Steven Spielberg? And then people are like, Tobe Hooper was just a husk that Steven Spielberg operated through, and then Steven Spielberg is like, no, actually it was very it was collaborative. It's like the way films are supposed to be made, through collaboration. And then Zelda's like, he had a drinking problem, and Steven Spielberg really had to be on set, and this whole thing. So I'm not going to think about any of that. None of that is famous or well known enough to make fodder out of. It's just stuff that I happen to know. It's actually about birds. I do think it's super weird. Some stuff that happens in that movie that's not remarked on, like they have construction workers, and like the first scene of the film are basically like hitting on the daughter like through the window, and like nobody bats an eye. It's very strange. I think it's supposed to signal that they're like hippies, or like they're older, they're like aging hippies. But again, it's very weird. A supplementary Poltergeist legacy is that I don't actually have an ending to this joke. That's fine. I can think of one later. Maybe, I know. The supplementary Poltergeist legacy is that it revolutionized the way chairs spookily moved across floors in Hollywood films. Revolution the way chairs maybe move Hollywood film. We're going to move in Hollywood films because we really want the mundanity to pop at the end. Is that it revolutions the ways? Do you ever just like start saying a word, and then it's like your mouth is like flying off a cliff? You're like, came out completely unscathed. I know. Although he is like a Republican, so did he come out unscathed, spiritually? The main Poltergeist legacy is that so many members of the cast and crew have suffered strange incidents or untimely death. Even the worst tragedy, of course, is that Craig T. Nelson is a Republican. Go on to become a Republican. Dan McClory, I believe, is learning this for the first time. No, friggin' ghosts are always scratching up the hardwood flooring. Ugh. Those frickin' ghosts in their chairs. They're like, the ways that we can signal to you our presence are highly fitted. Maybe you should have more interesting shit in your house. That's my ghost impression. I don't know if you could tell. Let's see. I like this one. It's a little political. But yeah, Republicans, I don't want to say, there's a phrase, the only good blank is a dead blank, and I'm not going to say that because of, there's just enough that would spend time you can use thinking it, basically. Yeah. The main Poltergeist legacy is that so many members of the cast and crew have suffered strange incidents or untimely deaths. The greatest tragedy, of course, is that Craig T. Nelson would go on to become a Republican. It's a pretty good joke. I would say it's up there. I feel like that could have been like a joke on like The Daily Show or something. Back when it was The Daily Show. I don't know what it is now. I don't know what's going on. I haven't watched it in so long that I'm like, do they even have jokes on that anymore? Is that still a thing? Let's see, what else? My hands are cold. Our heating is fucked up in our house. My dad was on hold for like an hour and a half or something. Let's see. I'm going to use this pause in the joke writing to plug a couple things. If you have been enjoying the stream, and I know you have because I try, and I feel like if you weren't enjoying it, you would have left by now. So through the power of logic, I have deduced that you are enjoying yourself, or you do things that you don't enjoy, which is a problem you have to address within yourself. In either case, if you're here, one thing you can do is give money to the Philadelphia Bail Fund. I believe my loyal and trusted tech, Arthur, is going to post that in the chat. Feel free to donate $1, $5, or $10 to the bail fund. Obviously, there's a lot of need for bail funds these past few months because of the unrest. Obviously, a lot of unheard communication is breaking out. So let's do some good. Let's give to that bail fund. Again, if you're enjoying yourself or you're here because of unresolved issues. Cool. So that is a little plug for the bail fund. Let's keep going. So you're gonna rub my hands again. I also just love rubbing your hands as a external way of communicate that you're about to do work. I love that. I'm sure it has something to do with manual labor or sort of this idea that rubbing your hands brings warmth or energy or something back into your hands to do the work you're meant to do. But in any way, they are ready to type some more. Let's think of more things. I've never seen Midsummer. I know that they killed a boyfriend. He's a bad boyfriend. He's in a bear costume. They light it on fire. They push him off a cliff. I haven't seen the end, so I don't know how they dispatch of him. You know what I have seen is Nightmare Before Elm Street. I actually had a tweet recently. Not recently. It was a few months ago, but I retweeted it recently. So it's like been back in the swirls. The swirls, I think, of like when a tweet is like getting retweeted a lot, and it's like not becoming viral, because for me, viral has a certain like benchmark, but you do see that like, oh, you know, like 1,000 people retweeted it, or like 100 people retweeted it. For me, I just think of it as the swirls, where it's just kind of swirling around in people's eyesight. Midsummer Night's Dream is where my brain always jumps. On Elm Street, Christmas. I think people are just putting words in the chat, and it's up to me to decipher them. Midsummer Night's Christmas. Nightmare Before Elm Street. I realized what I did. Guys, I'm doing great. Nightmare Before Elm Street. Let's see, what is that? Is when a skeleton opens a door. Is when a skeleton discovers a new land, a new world. When a skeleton, is he like the king? I think he's the king. Although I feel like that's ceremonial. They just like him because he's the protagonist. Nightmare Before Elm Street is when a skeleton king discovers a new world defined by the holiday of dream murder. So just a new world that revolves a new holiday he's never heard of, dream murder. You may deduce that one thing that has trended me towards a joke writing vocation, if not career, is the fact that things tend to swirl and get mixed up in my head pretty easily. I don't have a super straight shot mind, so it's pretty easy to then work backwards and justify why that error, a category error, has occurred. Nightmare Before Elm Street is follows a skeleton king, a depressed skeleton king who discovers a new world that revolves around it. Discovers a world that revolves around a holiday he's never heard of, dream murder. There we go. That's a good tweet. I just like him because he's the protagonist. It's so applicable to movie protagonists. Well, it's sort of like, what is Jack Skellington's role in Nightmare Before Elm Street? Like, he's not the mayor. Like, he's just like the celebrity. He's just this guy who like jumps around and like everybody likes him. Like, he's popular, but like, what does he do? He just kind of runs around. Everyone else is like working. They're making their little stuffed rats or whatever, and he's like, "Great job, Samantha Blar," and Samantha Blar is like, "Thank you, Jack." And you're like, "What is he?" He's just like a managerial class dipshit who like gets so bored because he's not, part of the because he gets bored with his role as a bourgeois, so he has to go like make work for himself. He makes legislation for the pumpkins. Anyways, class is weird. I'm trying to think of like, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of Tim Burton films probably loosely fall under the rubric of Halloween films, even if they are not straight up horror, like Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands, I remember watching it and thinking it's like very funny and very sad. It's one of those like, it's almost like what's it called, Parasite-like, in how like funny the first half is versus like how sad the second half is. Sally equals Grimes. Halloween Lawn Musk. Sally does equal Grimes. She's just like, she like has to work for. She has to like make soup for that guy. That guy fucking sucks. Grimes is like one of those people that like in your heart is like not cool, but you like. She has so many elements of somebody that you wish were really cool, or like you can imagine being really cool, that it's hard to like face the reality that she like probably sucks. and then you just you kind of take it out on the guy. Like, Elon Musk sucks, but he's not the reason that Grimes sucks. She sucks for other reasons. Anyway, Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands is about a guy who has scissors for hands. He is played by a man who has scissors taped onto his hands. This tweet. I'm trying to think of a way, what would be a one more step back I can take, where the scissors become gradually more tenuous to the proximity of this person. Edward Scissorhands is about a young man. He's very youth. He's very childlike. It's about a young man who has scissor hands for hands. He just has scissors for hands. Scissor hands is redundant. ATM machine, am I right? He's played by a man who has scissors taped onto his hands. He was reviewed. His story was written by a man who had scissors near his desk. Who had a drawer in his desk for scissors, presumably. At some point, we all are a little... I don't know how to end this. I'm trying to think about it. The tweet was written by somebody who has scissors in their house. He is defeated by Johnny Rocknose. I like that. I do like scissors, paper, scissor, rock, as this infinite sort of Highlander-like battle between three immortals, where one is Edward Scissorhands, one is Johnny Rockface, and one is Sheila Paper crotch or something. And they just do battle forever, and they can never win or gain sort of ultimate superiority over the others. This is, again, I love that. I'm trying to think of if it would fit into a tweet. I'm just trying to finish this one up. I'm trying to think of the story was written by a man who had a drawer in his desk for scissors, presumably the inventor of scissors. So, maybe he had no hands at all. The inventor. His story was written by a man who had a drawer in his desk for scissors, presumably the first person to read the script outline. The inventor of... What is a... scissor? Is there a scissor you know how everything has accessories? Is there a scissor accessory, a piece of plastic you would put over the scissors accessories? Let's see. A tool stand, a scissors holster. The scissors holster. Inventor of the leather scissor holster. The father of that man, the inventor of the leather scissor holster. Edward Scissorhands, Johnny Rocknose, and Shayna Paperfeet enter the ring. Only one will exit. The other two will get married. It is a love story. It's a love triangle. Edward Scissorhands remake where he has just normal hands, but he's always holding a pair of scissors in each of them. He insists the scissors are part of his hands, but he's clearly just holding them. This is like the Vampire's Kiss. If you watched Hello World, which is another show on this channel. I almost called it a station. I'm like, it's a channel. We had Ingu Kang, who is a TV and movie critic, and she was talking about the plot to Vampire's Kiss, which is apparently, I did not know this, a movie where Nick Cage thinks he's a vampire, and it's never made clear about whether he is, which I think is amazing. So this sounds like the Edward Scissorhands version of that movie, which I love. And again, not to put more work on your plate, Maya, but again, another movie I would absolutely watch. So I think the father of that man, let's see, the owner of several plastic handles. This is probably as good as it's going to get. I don't love this joke, but it is what it is. It's sort of hard. Sometimes you get a little bit too abstract and you can't quite execute this idea of growing proximity or a growing lack of proximity. It's a little bit too fuzzy. But I do like the idea of it, even if I'm not thrilled with the execution, just for a lack of my own personal imagination. Thank you, Maya. Please, somebody become Maya's agent so she can write all these amazing movie ideas. Billy Gorgeous, thank you so much for subscribing with Prime. That is lovely of you. Thank you so much. Cool. So let's do some more. Another plug I love to make is 3weeks.courses, which, again, my lovely and talented and loyal and trusted tech will post in the chat. 3weeks.courses is a partnership that our channel has with a website that is run by and conceived by some friends of ours from the before times. We were all involved in the same theater community. Now they are running a website, a business that serves courses that are in sort of bite-sized segments. 3 weeks is how long each of the courses is. There are creative courses in playwriting and songwriting, and there's also practical courses like finance and how to keep your body from turning into a goo during quarantine, and it's all there to kind of keep you inspired and keep your brain working and maybe connecting to community through your classmates. And I think it's a really cool idea, and that's why we're partners with them. So if you go to 3weeks.courses, you can check out those courses. I believe their next round of courses starts next week. So if you are interested in taking it, feel free to look over the courses relatively soon, because they're starting soon, the classes are. And if you pick from the drop-down menu that you have heard about them from us, from 2MB Studios, we will make a few bucks. It's hard to make money through Twitch. It is a harsh climate. I feel like Drizzt, if you've ever read The Crystal Shard, in the wintry slopes of Icewind Dale, you're like, these are these are fearsome terrains. But if you feel like helping us out and also learning something in the process, feel free to check those guys out. The reason I'm making so many references to The Crystal Shard is that it is our book club. I'm a member of book club, not has no relationship to the channel. I'm just in my own book club, and that is the book we're reading right now. So now I'm tending to think of everything in terms of that book. But back to horror films. Let's see. What are other horror films or horror ideas? A Headless Horseman, which is another figure that preceded Tim Burton's treatment of it, but which still exists within the Tim Burton's greater canon. Headless Horseman is funny. I feel like I've seen some good or mediocre or some fine Headless Horseman jokes. I feel like I could do better if I simply had an idea for it, which I don't currently, but I'm just going to leave those words up on the screen in case I can come back to them. It's just a real good zinger. Headless Horseman reminds me of an improv scene. I think I saw a duo prov in the before times with a couple of people who are very good, who were on the same Herald team, and they were doing a duo prov, and one of them was playing the Headless Horseman, and there was just some really good physical comedy they had from watching them drink some water and stuff. Alex says he was thinking of Headless Horseman when we were talking about the blackhead removers earlier. You think the Headless Horseman... Yeah, I'm like... It's like so funny. Like the idea is so funny that it almost feels like hat on hat. Pun not intended, but pun enjoyed. A hat on hat to like make fun of him. He's just like so absurd in nature. Let's see. I almost called him McSweeney's Todd. Let's try McSweeney's Todd. Again, taking advantage of my sleeplessness, we can mine the ways that my brain perverts its own knowledge through the power of combining words and phrases. This seems almost like a joke. I feel like I've seen some really mediocre Headless Horseman jokes. I'm sure I could do better if I had an idea, which I don't currently. That's one of those things where I feel like it's funny to us, and I think it just lands a bit too meta in the Twitter landscape. I feel like there are occasional meta tweets that really land and sing, and for the most part, I feel like they just sort of have this air of indulgence to them. Not that they aren't amusing, just that they never tend to kind of gain a particularly strong, in my opinion, audience, if that makes sense. But I do enjoy it. So McSweeney's Todd is a musical about... I'm trying to think of a joke that would combine Sweeney Todd with McSweeney's. McSweeney's is interesting. It's a website that I tend to enjoy. I have a lot of respect for what they do, but they are still sometimes funny in the kinds of things they print. Alex has a really good Headless Horseman joke. Again, if you write a really good joke and it feels like your own joke, in this case, Alex's joke feels like his joke, feel free to tweet it yourself. I will retweet it through myself or through the 2MB Studios Twitter handle, especially if you tag us so that we know that the tweet is live. So that's a lovely joke. We would be happy and thrilled to retweet that. It doesn't feel like my joke. It's yours. McSweeney Todd's is a musical about up here about getting an email that your delicious human pie is getting an email that your delicious human pie isn't quite what they're looking for right now, but that they are happy you thought of them for a pie made of human. This one feels pretty good. McSweeney's Todd is a musical. If I seem distracted, it's because my dog just walked beside me. If you follow me on Twitter, you will know about my dog. He's very cute. He's not in the best of health currently, but he is still running about fairly freely, fairly mobile, fairly in good spirits. So, to return to the joke, McSweeney's Todd is a musical about getting an email that your delicious human pie isn't quite what they're looking for right now, but that they are happy you thought of them for a pie made of human. That feels done. Unlike your human pie, this feels ready to publish. See how we're doing right now? It feels like we've lost some viewers. That's fine. I've been doing this long enough that I'm no longer having like an active panic attack every time I lose viewers. I also know that in the original conception of this show, it was only supposed to be about an hour. So sometimes I have found that it's more fun to do a slightly longer show, closer to 80. That's just sort of the length of time that has occurred to me to be fun to do. But absolutely, if people need to go, That makes sense as well. Hello, Rachel's dog. My dog, you can't hear him because he doesn't speak human, but he's saying, hello, Alex. And now he's rifling, he's like wandering he only comes downstairs to drink the water, and then he's incapable of going back upstairs, which is where he probably tends to want to be, because that's where my parents are, lying down. He likes to be with them, but he often gets stranded on the bottom floor. So after the show is over, I will carry him up like the little furry baby he is and drop him ceremoniously or unceremoniously, depending on the moment, on the bed of my parents. So let's see. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll call it a night. I'd love to do a couple more for you all. Whoever is left, whoever has decided that this is something they want to pursue past the 10 o'clock hour. Let's see. What's a couple other ones we can write? The Human Centipede is one of those movies, which is, I think it really became meme fodder, like heavy meme fodder. It was like a bolt of lightning. And I don't really hear that many jokes about it. I think we feel like the tank is pretty empty, or it's cyclical, where people had gotten very tired of it and they may return to it. I do think that it's probably a weaker source of parody because of the fact that reportedly the movie itself is not quite strong. So people are probably less inclined to revisit the film to be re-inspired by it. Maya says, past 10 feels like this show's after hours, and I love it. It's where the good stuff is. Well, thank you, Maya. Now we have no choice but to write a really good Human Centipede joke. I can't always stay awake when the show runs longer. That makes a lot of sense. I'm very tired as well. Human Centipede just feels a little beyond parody at this point, just from how absurd it is. So here's an idea. If this is too absurd, let's see if we can. What's the mundane or banal version? Again, a lot of these jokes are based upon taking sort of this bright spot, this bright light of the strikingness, like the really remarkable, eye-catching element of a particular property, and then finding the sort of banality just off to the side and highlighting that to humorous ends. So for a Human Centipede, what would be the banal side comment on the Human Centipede? 2MB Studio says, what's up with the Human Millipede? There's got to be one person in there who liked the company. Everyone's heard of the Human Centipede. Wait, the Human Centipede tends to get a bad rap for obvious reasons. Put a comma there, because a comma there is deserved and appropriate. The Human Centipede tends to get a bad rap for obvious reasons. What you don't hear about is how it's so good at eating the other human insects in your house. You also may find what you don't hear about is how it's so effective at eating the other human insects in your house. I, for one, killed my human centipede. And was soon overrun by human flies and human. What do centipedes eat? Just a second. Centipedes eat spiders, cockroaches, bedbugs, roaches, mice, bats, video, rats, rodents. Do centipedes eat rats? Is that a thing? Texas red-headed centipedes love to eat and have been known to feed on lizards, toads, snakes, and sometimes even rodents. Well, fuck me, guys. I did not know centipedes ate those kinds of things. Hard to socially distance when you're in a human centipede. I would love to pay the cameo bill for Jay Leno to just deliver some Human Centipede jokes. I think the idea of Jay Leno making jokes, but only about this Human Centipede, is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Again, please tweet that. That's not my joke, it's yours, but God, what a good joke it is. The Human Centipede tends to get a bad rap for obvious reasons. We don't hear about is how it's so effective at eating the other human vermin in your house. I for one, killed my Human Centipede and was soon overrun by human lizards, toads, snakes, and sometimes even human rodents. My dog is shuffling and snuffling under my legs now. He really does not give a shit that I'm on camera. My human lizards. Now I'm like, is it fun? Would it make the joke better to explain what a human lizard is? Scaly humans sewn together. Human toads. Wet humans sewn together. Human snakes. Tall, long humans. This is not going to fit in a tweet. Humans tied together. And sometimes even human rodents. Furry, hairy dudes. So I don't think this is too long, but we'll figure it out, guys. We'll spend the last 10 minutes of my show just slowly editing and revising this to fit into a tweet. Boom. Oh, yeah, okay. I think we can do it. Human Centipede tends to get a bad rap for obvious reasons. What you don't hear about is how it's so effective at eating, keeping human vermin population down. Human centipedes are known to eat scaly humans sewn together, human toads, wet humans sewn together, human snakes, long humans sewn together, and sometimes even human rodents, hairy dudes. Human centipede, we make this plural, human centipedes tend to get a bad rap. We just get rid of that. Conversational pieces can go first. What you don't hear about is also notable. Is how they're effective at keeping human population down. Human centipedes are known to eat human lizards, human toads. I guess we have to just get rid of one of these. Although I do like sometimes even human rodents. Human centipedes and get a bad rap. Boom. I do miss the human snake, but there's nothing to be done. So yeah, I think that is actually, I'm like, I could write another joke, but I feel like what better to end on than a joke about the human centipede, that very topical subject we all know and love. That'd be a great joke for me to go out on. Feel free to tip your bartender, by which I mean feel free to follow and subscribe to 2MB Studios. We have shows, we have hours of programming every day of the week, all 7 days of the week. Tomorrow at 8:00 p.m. Eastern, whatever that means to you, we have a show called The Haunted Manor, which is a Halloween special as hosted by and conceived by our good friends at Nitro Comedy. Feel free to come back and watch all the stars and special guests that are appearing on that show. And otherwise, have a lovely and wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for watching me write jokes. Thank you for collaborating on jokes of your own. And otherwise, let's see if we can just, get through this together, whatever that means. I won't say we're all in it together, but I will say let's all get through it together, do the best that we can. Good night and